Changer community. Hi. What is Bitcoin, how it works, and why it's the most superior asset? All these three questions in around 10 minutes. So, let's get started. First of all, let's start with the basics of what is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a type of digital currency, also known as cryptocurrency. But unlike the money in your bank account, Bitcoin isn't controlled by any government or central authority. Thank God. Like, for example, a central bank. Instead, it operates on a decentralized network. So what does that mean? In simple terms, no single person, company, or government controls Bitcoin. It's run by its users through a global network of computers. Bitcoin was created in 2008 by an anonymous person or group using the name Satoshi Nakamoto, and we'll get to the creator in just a second. I have my own theory. They wanted to create a new form of money that didn't rely on trust in banks or governments. This especially was relevant after the global financial crisis of 2008, when trust in the financial system took a huge hit. Bitcoin is often referred to as digital gold because just like gold, it's limited in supply. There will only be 21 million Bitcoins in existence ever, and this scarcity gives it value. Alright, so now we know what Bitcoin is, but how does it actually work? Bitcoin works on a technology called blockchain. Now, don't let the word blockchain scare you off. I'm going to explain it in a really simple way. Think of the blockchain as a digital ledger or a giant spreadsheet that records every single Bitcoin transaction ever made. But instead of this ledger being stored on one company's server, it's stored across thousands of computers all around the world. That's the decentralization we've been talking about earlier. Every time someone buys, sells, or transfers Bitcoin, that transaction gets grouped together with others into something called a block. Once that block is filled with transactions, it's added to a chain of previous blocks. This is why it's called a blockchain. And here's the cool part. Once a block is added to the chain, it can never be changed. This makes the blockchain incredibly secure because you can't just go back and alter the history of Bitcoin transactions. Now you might be wondering, who verifies these transactions and ensures the system runs smoothly? That's where miners come in, actually. You might have heard about mining. Miners are people, or more accurately, their computers, that use powerful hardware to solve complex math problems. When they solve these problems, they validate the transactions and get rewarded with new Bitcoin. This process is called mining. But now, what makes this system so special? Well, for one, it's transparent. Everyone can see the transaction history forever. And it's secure thanks to the blockchain. And trustless, meaning you don't have to trust a bank or institution to handle your money, which means self-sovereignty, self-governance, independence, and the real financial freedom. Now, let's get to the big question. Why is Bitcoin considered the most superior asset? For this, we have 8 main reasons. Number 1, limited supply, scarcity. Remember when I mentioned that there will only be 21 million Bitcoins? This fixed supply makes Bitcoin deflationary, unlike fiat currencies like the US dollar, which can be printed endlessly by governments. Bitcoin's supply is capped. This scarcity can drive up its value over time, much like gold or even more. Second of all, decentralization. No one controls Bitcoin. There is no government, central bank, or company pulling the strings. It's controlled by its users through the global network of computers. This means that Bitcoin is immune to inflation caused by government money printing, like we've seen recently during economic crises, and it's gonna just continue because the system is broken and this old colonial fiat garbage money system is just simply dead and it's on its way out. Reason number 3 is its security. Thanks to the blockchain, Bitcoin is one of the most secure networks in the world. It's incredibly difficult and almost impossible to hack or manipulate the Bitcoin network, and in fact, it's often said that Bitcoin has never been hacked since its inception. Reason number 4 is the store of value. Bitcoin is increasingly being seen as a store of value, just like gold, and in fact, many people refer to it as digital gold. It's something that can hold its value over time, especially in a world where inflation is eating away at the value of paper money. Certainly there is volatility, but long-term trend, Bitcoin has been the best performing asset in the history of humankind. Reason number 5 is global accessibility and mass adoption. Bitcoin is borderless. Anyone with an internet connection can use Bitcoin, whether you're in US, Europe, Africa, or anywhere else. You don't need a bank account or ID to own and use Bitcoin, making it incredibly inclusive. Reason number 6 is potential for high returns. Bitcoin has had some crazy price swings, yes, the volatility, but over the long term, it has delivered massive returns, better than any asset in the world, and it is a better hedge against inflation than gold. And it's still only 15 years old. People who have invested in Bitcoin early on have seen life-changing gains, and to be honest, in my opinion, it is still quite early. Now, this doesn't mean that Bitcoin is a guaranteed moneymaker, but it has the potential to outpace traditional assets like stocks, bonds, or even real estate, and gold, and commodities like we've seen before. Now, reason number 7 is that it's now backed by ETFs all around the world, exchange-traded funds. BlackRock and other trillion-dollar asset managers are pushing it so hard. Separate states in the US, such as the state of Wisconsin and others, are currently buying Bitcoin using their pension funds and the ETFs. Let that sink in for a second. And the reason number 8, Bitcoin is backed by the most powerful computer network known to humankind. The total power output of which has surpassed 500 exahash per second, which is just mind-boggling, to be honest. To put it into perspective, the US currently has about 100 nuclear power stations. It would have to shut down at least 10 of them, leaving 10% of the country, 300 million people, so 30 million people, without electricity, and connect it all to Bitcoin network just to try and actually fail to overpower it. Meaning that at this point, Bitcoin is practically unkillable. Which in of itself can honestly spark different theories as to who or what Satoshi Nakamoto really was or still is. One of the more plausible ones is that the US government and its agencies could actually be behind it. Perhaps to maybe attempt to save the US dollar from its inevitable collapse, like every fiat currency in the history of humankind has collapsed because of all the same reasons, primarily inflation. I don't need to tell you that. You can always go into the history and check what happened to every single fiat currency before the dollar, and it always was the same fate every single time. Now, some say that Bitcoin is a threat to US dollar. Well, then I have a question for them. Why didn't they kill it when they had a chance? It's pretty clear that they knew about it all along. They are not stupid. US intelligence agencies are just not dumb. I think you can agree with me on this. But perhaps it was the plan all along. That would actually explain a lot about the current developments and why Bitcoin is becoming the subject of wide support from trillion-dollar institutions, as well as has become a hot topic during the current presidential election. If you think about it, it kind of starts to add up, doesn't it? Now, if it is true, then the upcoming Bitcoin price performance will absolutely melt faces. That's primarily why I'm 99% allocated to crypto right now. Millions of dollars at stake, which is something that most people probably shouldn't do, but it is my choice. So send this video to a friend that needs to see it, and if you still have no Bitcoin or crypto in general, not financial advice, but it might be one of the biggest mistakes of your life. If you currently have no spare cash to buy as much Bitcoin as you possibly can, or want to improve your cash flow, check out the video popping up on the screen right now. In this video, I have laid out my entire strategy and 9 simple steps that helped me achieve a net worth of over $100 million. And I started with 0 myself. It is possible. Game changer.